I'm very entrepreneurial, but I also appreciate that not everyone should have to be entrepreneurial to survive. We should live in a society where working as a manager in a post office, as Gary Stevenson would say, eventually get you to buy a house. It's crazy the way the UK's gone. I think every country's struggling right now, isn't it?
I am doing Amazon FBA. That's my bread and butter. Well, it used to be, actually. When they first told me they were doing Amazon, I was like, you cannot do Amazon. I've heard so many horror stories about Amazon FBA. They're going to steal your money. They're going to steal your products, all this kind of stuff. But then once I saw their results, I was like, okay, I've got to give this a go.
So yeah, Mogul, how are you? What's been happening with you lately? What's new?
Yeah, so I'm in Dubai right now. So I'm considering, although I pretty much decided I'm going to be moving to Dubai, which is kind of an exciting move for me. It wasn't a definite decision for me. It was a tough decision, moving away from my friends and family in the UK, but the lifestyle out here is fantastic. I love the warm weather, the sunshine, the no taxes helps as well. That was my original thought process, by the way, is I wasn't liking the way that the UK was going. Taxes increasing, just public services decreasing, the quality of the services, and just the UK just seemed to be going downhill. So originally I was like, well, I'm going to move to Dubai for tax reasons. That actually wasn't my main reason. Once I got here, I was like, well, I actually really like it out here. It's actually really awesome. So if I didn't enjoy out here, I probably wouldn't move out here, even if I am going to save God knows how much on taxes. So, but yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So running my Amazon business remotely using Prep Center, just ordering online, nothing too fancy really. Can't do retail arbitrage, of course. I suppose technically I could if I got someone to buy stuff for me. But
I've always wondered, with people who do that, why wouldn't the people they hire just do it themselves?
they don't have the
I've never
money
got
or
that.
the inclination. Not everyone wants to run their own business. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true.
So you need to find someone who wants to work hard but doesn't necessarily want to run their own business. But maybe they would eventually do that. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But you could say the same thing as like, why would an employee work for me when they could just set up their own business and do exactly what I'm doing? Because not everyone wants to do that, I guess. And so I've got some friends who just flat out refuse to do business. They do not want to do a business. They like the regular paycheck they get from their job. There's no hassle and no stress with it. And I totally understand that, to be fair, but not everyone's got that kind of entrepreneurial mindset like you and I do. Everyone's wired differently, I suppose. So
For sure. And I was talking to one of my friends who's like super left wing. I was talking to him the other day about how I'm very entrepreneurial, but I also appreciate that not everyone should have to be entrepreneurial to survive. We should live in a society where working as a manager in a post office, as Gary Stevenson would say, could eventually get you to buy a house. It's crazy the way the UK's gone. But I think every country's struggling right now, isn't it?
a lot of Western countries are, yes.
Western ones.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of young people now are kind of doing this whole checking out of society, essentially, because and I don't blame them, it seems hopeless for them to get a job that pays 25K a year. Somehow they've got to pay rent, food, and all the cost of living. Somehow also then save for a deposit on a house that's going to cost them 10 to 20 times their yearly salary before tax. It seems like a mammoth task that's almost impossible. So yeah, I can see why some people are just like, well, sod it, I'm never going to own a home, I'll just spend my money on a fast car and just enjoy my life, I suppose, and just not even get a job. Maybe it's like, I don't know, it's not, I don't like the way it's going. I think it's awful personally, but
Yeah,
it's scary. Actually.
I'm the same. And like, I was talking to some friends recently, and when I moved to Bristol, I was paying £250 a month for rent with bills included. And now we pay 1,400 just for rent, not including the bills that have also skyrocketed in price. And you're just like, the average salary in the UK, I think, is 32K now. Most people I know aren't earning that much money. I have literally no idea how like single mothers are surviving. My sister's a single mother and she's got a really good job, and even she's paycheck to paycheck. It's like the Wild West out here at the moment. I'm hoping it turns around, because people are starting to get pissed off, and that's usually when things change, I hope.
True. I just don't see how things can change. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's systemized inefficiencies, isn't it? Like the Tories deliberately broke the NHS so they could privatize. So it's when it's systemized that way for such a long period of time, it's going to be very hard to turn it around.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of problems in the UK right now, and so not just the UK, all over Europe and even America, you could argue. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a very interesting time. It's a very difficult problem to solve, but one thing I can say, I don't know if it would translate over to UK, but coming to Dubai, you can just see how they've built wealth out here. Now, obviously they've got oil money that helps, but they're not just living off the oil money. They've encouraged entrepreneurs to come out here with low taxes and set up businesses and thrive. And I feel like the UK is the absolute opposite of that. They don't encourage entrepreneurship. The government say they do, but then they tax small businesses and put extra burdens on them. So I don't know how that encourages them. And yeah, I just feel like the UK could take a lesson from someone like Dubai, for example, and just say like, look, if because businesses are what create jobs and then it creates wealth. And then what do people do with wealth? They spend it. So, and then you
Yeah.
can make money on VAT. So I feel like, yeah, they could just, the UK could learn a lot from Dubai, basically. But yeah, no government does things right, I suppose. And every government always only thinks, this is turning into a political conversation now, but like only thinks like 4 years ahead.
Yeah.
Which is,
Well, look at China. China's got a 100-year plan,
yeah.
and the politics in the West is all they spend all their time campaigning to get in power, and then when they're in power, they spend all their time trying to stay in power rather than actually focus on what's good for the country. So
Yeah, no,
just
absolutely.
goes
Yeah,
to
it's
show.
definitely a broken system. But yeah, I feel like the UK unfortunately just doesn't encourage businesses and entrepreneurship. So if you're someone who wants to do a business, I say just buck the trend, just do it, and you just got to push through, and hopefully things will change for the better. But for me, it just seems like it's the only way to really generate real wealth is to have your own business. Really. Now you say you get people. Was it your sister or sister-in-law who's got
Sister,
that
yeah.
high paying job, 6 figures, like, and that's great to be fair, but you're never gonna, even with a salary like that, and that is a fantastic salary by the way, you're never gonna get really wealthy.
Oh, that was a different family member. My
Okay,
sister
yeah, yes.
wishes that
Oh,
she
so
had a
yeah, yeah.
six-figure salary.
But yeah, like just like saying this person, yeah, who's got £120,000 job, like, say a really great salary, but you're never gonna be able to like afford a Lamborghini. If you want that one of those, if you want a giant house or if you want a yacht,
Or if
maybe
you
after
want to,
30 years,
or
maybe of
if,
saving.
or if you
No.
just want to move to Dubai.
Sure, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, and you see the wealth out here is just insane. Like, there's levels upon levels upon levels. Um,
I find that so. I was raised in a fairly small village, and one of the reasons I like Bristol is because to me it feels like a countryside city.
yeah.
When I went to London for the first time and I saw like the expensive parts on the Monopoly board, it was like a culture shock. I couldn't believe how much wealth some people actually have.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And it's even crazier out here, to be fair. But yeah, it's insane. You see people, Lamborghini is just common out here. You see them all the time. And then you see these big yachts and stuff like that, and houses that cost tens of millions of pounds. And I mean, you can come out here and it's like, even if you're worth £50 million, you can be a peasant compared to some people.
Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
just insane, isn't it? Really, they don't realize the level of wealth that is out in the world until you kind of like see it. And yeah, in London, central London's a good place to see it. It's places like Dubai, you realize how sickening it is, how wealthy
Mm.
some people are. And it's a beyond your imagination how wealthy they are. It's kind
I
of
was
crazy.
watching I was watching a I can't remember what video. I think it was a podcast the other day where the guy talking was very happy with himself to get his business to a part where he's get his business to a point where he's earning 30,000 per month, which to any person is, well, to most people is an obscenely good amount of money. But
Yeah.
then he met someone who became his mentor, and the guy said, "Oh, nice job. What's next for you?" And to this guy, he was like, does it go further than this? And whereas to this other guy, it's like that's a good starting position. Where are you going next?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, there's 8 billion people on the planet, and if you're good at selling, that's a lot of people to sell to, isn't it?
This is true. Yeah. As long as he sells the ones that got money. Yes.
Yeah. Not meaning to push it back to politics, but I just
No, it's
wanted
all
to
good.
say, because you were talking about going to Dubai, my partner's family, a lot of them live in Portugal, around Lisbon. And again, I had this moment of realization that the UK is actually doing quite badly because people out there, a lot of them will go out to eat every day, even if it's just breakfast at a cafe. But I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
anyone who eats out every day. Like most of my friends eat out once a week, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they just can't afford it, can they? So,
And exactly.
and then that's just again, is it just shows you, yeah, how bad the economy is. But it's also bad for the economy because then restaurants are struggling, which means there's less staff, Whereas if you just encourage people to spend money because they've got money to spend, the economy just booms in so many
Mm.
ways. And if you just basically, essentially taxing people is like putting a foot on the neck, basically, as far as I'm concerned, just keeps people down. But yeah, it's a scary thing for a government to lower taxes because yes, in the short term, maybe while they're in power, they're going to get less tax revenue. But in the long run, maybe when they're out of power, they will get more tax revenue. So, but yeah, I don't like the current regime right now in the UK. I didn't vote Labour, I'll be honest. Probably going to hate me
Well,
now.
like,
I went in with an
I
open mind, though. I said, look, okay, I'm going to give them a chance and see what happens because there did need to be change, to be
Mhm.
fair. And they have made change for the worse, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. You know,
No, again, like we were talking about this the other day. So you had a political party in power for so long. I would argue most people would say the Tories ruined the country, and then Labour, all they had to do is come in and be slightly better, and they'd be okay. And they arguably made it worse.
yeah,
And you just feel damned if you do, damned if you don't.
pretty
No one's
much.
doing a good job. The mentality is to just keep taxing and taxing, and yet we're one of the most heavily taxed countries in Europe, I believe, and yet nothing works. So
Yeah.
maybe inefficiencies are the problem. Maybe it's not that you're taking everything from people who have barely anything anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Governments are the worst people to spend your money, basically, because they'll just waste it. And in fact, it's the same for anyone, really. When it's not your money, you tend to be quite wasteful with it because you've not gone through the effort of earning it.
Mm.
When you have to actually earn the money yourself, then you're a bit more careful with it, or most people are anyway. But
Yeah,
yeah, governments are the worst people to spend money. Yeah,
the
inefficiencies.
same. Sorry, I was just going to say the same mentality goes with them. There's actually studies that show people who get loans are way more frivolous spending that money than if they'd have earned it first. I think there's just like
Yeah.
there's no like a psychological off switch that if you haven't earned it yourself, you're just frivolous.
It's because I guess it's come instantly. You get a loan, let's say £5,000, it's in your bank account within 24 hours or whatever, immediately there. If you're working a job and you're saving £100 a month, to get £5,000 is going to take you years. So you realize
Yeah.
the effort and the blood and the sweat that has gone into that £5,000. So you're going to hold on to it as much as possible. So yeah, that's probably explains it, I suppose. It's just the ease of how it's come into your hands, I suppose.
Mm.
But yeah, it's.
So
I'll go.
leaning this to a more positive way. What are you doing in your business these days? How are you handling traveling in Dubai whilst running a business?
Yeah, so it's interesting, really. So what am I doing at the moment? I am doing Amazon FBA, so that's my main bread and butter. What it used to be actually. But went really hard in Q4 on Amazon FBA. Made like 40 grand in Q4. It's not too bad, really.
Nice.
But with the whole like you move situation, Amazon maybe being a little bit annoying. Also maybe getting a little bit burned out as well myself, having done like 2 years solid. Because when I got into Amazon FBA, I was like all in, just watching podcasts, learning, talking about breathing, everything FBA. So in sort of Q1 this year, so January, February, March, I kind of just like sat back and just didn't do any work. I was also on the FBA. I was focusing on the social media side. I was focusing on my Discord community. I was focusing on all that element. Got my website as well. So FBA kind of took a backseat, and I'll be truthful. I actually want to focus 100% on YouTube, talking about Amazon FBA, do my community, and maybe even do some mentorship at some point. The problem is though, I cannot not do Amazon FBA and then teach it. So I basically said to myself, well, I'm going to take a little break and then I'm going to come back into it. Now I've started building that up again, basically. And to be fair, I do enjoy Amazon FBA. It's not an easy business, but I do find it easy, if that makes sense. But because I've been hardcore doing it now for like 2.5, 3 years. So for me, it comes quite naturally. It was interesting to see actually having wound down that not bought any stock for that business, and essentially just had dead stock on Amazon. I was basically breaking even on what I was selling. How long it took for me to build up that money, the profits again. So I was getting to £10 a day, then £20 a day profit, and then now I've just hit the point where I'm making £100 a day. But it takes time to get that stock into Amazon, unless you can deploy all your money right away and buy loads of stock on day one. It does take time. There's not all those deals around on day one. You have to buy deals over the months or so, and then eventually they build up a stock in Amazon, and then the profits build. It's pretty simple, really. But it's interesting to see that, though. How even with
I
I've got a decent amount of money behind me, how long it took to build up to that kind of £100 profit, and then hopefully I'll start hitting 200 again, then 300 again, and just go on from there.
Yeah, I found if I didn't spend enough, it's kind of like a 1 month delay, isn't it? If you don't
Yeah.
spend enough and then you start ramping up the spend, it takes literally four to 5 weeks for it to kick back in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just the fact that it takes maybe time to get stock to you. The prep center maybe take a few days. Check-in times actually have been really slow recently on Amazon. Then, of course, like you send 10 different items in, 5 of them might, the price might have tanked. So you're going to have to sit on those and wait. And then you won't see the results on those for 2 or 3 months, depending on how long it takes the prices to come back. And then other ones will sell it immediately. Just had a sale now, actually, which is quite nice. I've got my SDK open here. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not a business that runs easily in terms of like the fact that you just send stock in, it sells immediately, and you get it back, and then you can redeploy that money, which some people think. It takes time, and you can't always sell your stock through. So, but no,
I've got a couple of mates who work in Amazon fulfillment centers, and my partner used to work in one. One thing that I was getting super frustrated by recently is that they're very transparent, and they say that loads of the staff members just steal loads of stuff. And yeah, I was sending stock to a previous prep center a while ago, and really high value products I was selling just went missing. And then the FC were being really, I'm not going to name which one, but they were being really shady in their responses about where it's gone. So I had to, after like fighting it for about 3 weeks, I had to go to the managing director and be very blunt and say, why do I keep hearing rumors that this FC specifically is loads of stuff is going missing, and they're not providing good reasons to that? What's going on? Finally, eventually got reimbursed for the missing stock. But yeah, it's frustrating. It's frustrating when you've worked so hard to build your money only for someone else to just come and steal it, and then
yeah.
Amazon not doing anything about it until you push them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too negative, but Amazon at times does frustrate you. It's such a great platform, but their customer
It is, yeah.
service is terrible.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just it's one of the annoying things of Amazon, and we don't exactly we make good money, but on like it's all run on relatively thin margins, to be fair. So when you lose like
In
a high
margins,
value
high
item,
volume though, isn't it?
yeah, it's all about that's the secret, guys. Like it's just volume, pretty much, to
Yeah.
Amazon.
Well,
You know.
to me, I complain about Amazon the same way I do England. I complain because I like it and I care. You
Yeah,
know?
no, yeah. Oh, yeah, upsets me how England's going. And Amazon could be, honestly, put me in charge of Amazon UK, right? I will revolutionize that business for you, okay? And I'll make
Just yeah.
people beg to get onto the platform. Whereas right now, people are leaving the platform for
Mm.
better, greener pastures because the customer service is probably the worst customer service I've ever seen from any company ever in my life.
Yeah.
That's
Well, so
by a
we
big margin.
we do some eBay stuff on the side. I've got a kind of like done for you eBay thing, and anytime there's a problem, I speak to an actual person, and
Yeah.
they resolve it on the call. And I was just like, man, if Amazon could fix their seller support, it would be an insanely good platform to be on. It's still an insanely good platform to sell on.
Yeah.
And like to anyone listening to this, I promise you the grass is not always greener. Like I've tried different things. My partner doesn't like Amazon, so she does other stuff. If you're selling on eBay, sometimes when you have all the evidence in the world, they'll still go with the customer. If you're selling from your own website, payment processes can just take and hold your money for like a year. So like there's no easy business model. You just gotta pick your beast and see what you're happy to fight against, basically.
100%. It's any business you do. I actually have a friend who was thinking of getting out of Amazon FBA because he had a few setbacks, and we're talking about it. And I was like, any business that you do, I keep hitting my microphone here. There's no smooth sailing. Very few businesses go through a very smooth journey. There's always roadblocks in the way, or different paths you go down that turn out to be incorrect. Very few people take this perfect journey in their business, and there's always these hurdles that come along. And Amazon, probably customer service is probably the biggest hassle and hurdle you get. And then eBay, there's other things. There's a lot of scams going on eBay right now. There's obviously people going to TikTok Shop as well. I'm trying to think what the downsides of TikTok. I'm not very familiar with TikTok Shop really, but yeah, there's always, it doesn't matter
I've
what
got
business you're doing, it's just like There's always something. It's never smooth sailing. So if you want an easy life, go and get a job. To be fair, as simple as that, honestly. But you'll never be wealth. You might be well off, but you'll never be wealthy. From a
Yeah,
job.
easy life until you lose your job out of nowhere. Like I was made redundant from a fairly secure job,
Yeah,
so that's why I'd rather take a risk with myself, because I know the risk is about, well, to me the risk feels the same, but I know I'm eventually going to make a lot more money than I would have ever done in a job.
yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
the TikTok shop thing, that is a really interesting talking point, because most people that we speak to are telling us, "Oh, are you going to add TikTok shop to the community?" But we're saying, like, we're still a very young company. We don't want to spread our niche too much, because you should niche down first. But like I spoke to someone the other day who had 25K tied up in TikTok, and they just said, "Yeah, we're not cashing out. You're not getting it." And it was like indefinitely. It wasn't a pause. So even TikTok shop isn't perfect.
yeah, that's bad. Yeah, so it looks like we're taking TikTok to court then, I guess.
Yeah, literally.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about jobs. Like some people say, like, "Oh, isn't starting your own business risky?" And people think a job is like really secure. But or some jobs are, to be fair. If you work for the government, maybe if you're a doctor or whatever, you pretty much can have a job for life. But you essentially have put all your eggs in one basket, which is your job, and you can be fired pretty much at any point. Now you might be able to get another job, but like that's quite a risk. You got your mortgage or all your bills set up on that one job.
Mm.
It's not quite as secure as you may realize. But yeah, it's just food for thought, really. And hopefully people don't get fired and stuff. But running a business is risky, don't get me wrong, but at least your fate is in your hands for the most part. There are obviously external factors that can affect that, but yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, really, when it comes to
I've
having
got
a
friends
job.
in I've got friends in the civil service, and whilst the job is secure, it's not the private sector. The work ethic is not the same. So
Oh yeah,
if you're someone who's come from the private sector, gone into civil service, my friends who do that say it's miserable because no one does anything. It's super slow. It's not challenging. And if you're the type of person who likes to be challenged, which you should, because if you
yeah,
switch off your brain at work and you spend all day at your job, how many years are you going to go by with your brain switched off? It's not good. I believe we should push ourselves when we're in our working spaces. And yeah, the civil
absolutely.
service, it's like a cliche at this point, isn't it? Nothing gets done by civil servants, but even by the people who want to do hard work, they can't. There isn't any work for them.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're a civil servant that goes into private sector, you are in for a shock when deadline is thing called a deadline. What's that? That comes along
Yeah.
and you have to work like 8 hours a day. We're bashing
The
civil servants, so I really shouldn't do that. But yeah, like it's definitely a
right.
different, yeah, a different work culture. Let's put it like
Culture.
that. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Civil servants, not knocking them at all. I'm knocking like the space. But
yeah.
the woman I mentioned to you earlier, who's like a headhunted hiring manager, she spoke to loads of businesses who would say that they don't want to take on anyone from the civil sector, just because of that difference in work culture.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
I was just trying to think what you said previously as well. I had a point on that, but I totally forgot what it was. Sometimes I feel like I need to make notes.
Yeah, I do write notes, but I don't have space on my desk today.
Okay, fair enough. But
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. Yeah, I think like Amazon really is the best business for people. I mean, oh yeah, actually, that was one reason I quit my job actually because it got to the point where I was no longer learning. Not that I didn't have more to learn, I definitely did. I just in my current role, it was really cushy. I basically was the first software engineer in that company. So I was a software engineer that I quit that job.
Mm.
I basically wrote the code base from scratch with a work colleague of mine. It got to the point where I was basically the most senior person there. There wasn't a huge amount of growth for me at that point, and I could have stayed in that job for a very long time. Essentially cruised it, just done the usual, but I don't know. I just found it a bit. Well, firstly, I've always wanted to do my own business, so that was one thing. But also just getting bored, essentially just kind of
Mm.
doing the same thing. And I could have got another job as a software engineer, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give business a go. I've always wanted to do a business, never knew what business to do. But then I saw people doing Amazon, and when they first told me they were doing Amazon, I was like, you cannot do Amazon. I've heard so many horror stories about Amazon FBA. They're going to steal your money, they're going to steal your products, all this kind of stuff. But then once I saw their results, I was like, okay, I've got to give this a go. I saw them making a 2,000 a month and a 3,000 a month, and they sort of posting like 8,000, 10,000 a month. I was like, okay, I've got to get into it at this point. Got to give this a go. And yeah, Amazon's just a great business because you have to find customers. Simple as that. That's the hardest part of any business. As a
Yeah.
software engineer, I could have written any kind of software I wanted. I could have written an Airbnb app. I could have written whatever. But if I've got no one to go and use it and pay for it, then it's pointless. Customers are the most important thing and the hardest thing to get for a business. And on Amazon, all the customers are already there. Everyone uses Amazon. So,
Yeah,
it's
well, and the thing I was going to say, not just customer acquisition, but Amazon has the trust with its
yeah,
consumers. So even if you build up a big database of your own customers on your own platform, you still have to build up trust over time.
yeah,
Amazon, like the reason the sales velocity is so high is because people trust the platform. They know they can do the returns. So yeah,
yeah.
it is an insanely good platform. And I mean, around the world, most uh, I think it's like, is it 30% of e-com traffic goes through Amazon? Is that right? Is that a
I'm
stat?
not sure actually. Yeah, I actually don't know that figure. But yeah, it probably wouldn't surprise me.
I'm, I'm going to
It's
fact
probably
check that.
more. I mean, it's probably more. I remember a time I used to shop around, like maybe when I had less money. I was like, okay, I want to get this DVD, right? I'll look at all the different ones like HMV and whatever, and I'll see like where it's cheapest. But now I just buy from Amazon because I know I'm going to get a next day delivery. I've got Amazon Prime, so my delivery is free. There's nothing I hate more than paying for delivery from a company. That adds a huge barrier in. And I don't know, it just is easier, and the customer service for buyers is fantastic.
For buyers.
Um,
Yeah, that's the
for
caveat,
buyers,
isn't it?
it's fantastic. It's basically no quibble. You have a problem, you get it sorted. So I don't know. That's why it just does so well, to be honest, because it just makes it easier. And so I used to shop around loads. If you look at my 10 years ago, look at my top cashback, you'll see I've ordered from all different sites. Now,
Mm.
well, apart from obviously buying now for Amazon, you don't see too many because I'm just buying everything from Amazon because it's
Yeah.
just easier. And I'm annoyed when I
So
can't buy it from Amazon.
I just fact checked myself, and it's 37.8% of
Okay.
e-commerce in the US is Amazon.
Yeah.
But Walmart is starting to grow. I hear quite a lot of
Yeah.
people in the US say Walmart's quite a good platform to sell on as well.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have, unfortunately, another big platform that I'm aware of really in the UK, like Walmart. I've seen like Superdrug, for example. There are third-party sellers on that platform, but I don't think it's like
Really?
very. Yeah, I've definitely seen like if you go onto Superdrug, you'll see there's different stores on there, but I don't think it's just open for anyone to kind of like sign up. I feel like it's just like selected partners.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, like Walmart's obviously making waves. They're basically doing exactly what Amazon's doing. They've got their own warehouses. They're doing the fulfillment, aren't they? There's no one in the UK that offers that. But the UK is such a small country, though, that I don't know why they
Yeah.
would, to be
No.
honest.
Well,
Uh,
I know there was talk a while ago of eBay. eBay was thinking about doing fulfillment centers the same way Amazon does, but
hmm,
they didn't actually do it, and I always wondered why that was, because it seems
yeah.
like such an obviously good business model.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't do it, but I guess it's a complicated thing to set up, I suppose.
Mm.
But yeah, eBay's another interesting one. Like they're massively screwing over the people that actually give them the money, business customers, and then personal private accounts get a free ride now, literally.
They just changed it and ruined it actually. So they made selling free for personal accounts, but
Yeah.
because they're threatened by Vinted, they've implemented a buyer protection fee, but they implemented it on eBay really badly, where on Vinted, you see the price of the product, and then at the checkout, it says buyer protection fee is added on. Whereas on
Yeah.
eBay, it just adds it onto the price of eBay. So if you're trying to sell something for 10 quid, it's actually 13 quid. And to the customer, they're like, why are you trying to sell that for £13? That's not worth. So yeah, they've actually just ruined in the
Mm.
UK eBay personal selling accounts after it was like
Okay.
it was like 4 or 5 months of eBay being really good on personal accounts, and now
Yeah.
they ruined it.
Yeah, fair enough. It's still difficult for businesses to compete on there. I mean, their prices might show the correct price, I suppose, not including this fee. But when you've got as a business that you've got to pay, VAT if you're VAT registered, but you've also got to pay eBay fees as well.
Mm.
Versus a personal account which doesn't have any fees, or they've got this new buyer protection thing. I assume businesses have it as well. I don't know. or not?
With my business account, I've not noticed those. I think it's factored
Okay.
into your subscription
So
cost, I
essentially,
would
what
guess.
they've done is they've just renamed this fee the buyer protection fee.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's no
literally.
longer a
I
commission; it's just a buyer protection fee, essentially. So,
Yeah, I'm
interesting.
all for it as well. If they'd have done it the Vinted way, where it made it clear at checkout that it's not you as the seller who's putting this price on, it's eBay, I
Yeah,
wouldn't have minded that. But the way they did it, it kind of made it seem like sellers were being greedy, and
yeah.
their rationale was, yeah, we're passing the fees on to the buyers. But the thing is, no buyers are going to buy the products at those prices, which means sellers have to put their prices down, which means the margin's smaller. So it's like,
Yeah,
crazy, you can't
exactly. I've seen
escape
the
it.
same arguments of people saying, well, with VAT, just add the price on and charge the customer. But it's like, well, are you not then competitive in the market? We kind of
Yeah.
have to eat the VAT because if 10 other people are selling something for £10, we can't sell ours for £12 of VAT. Probably not the correct math, but yeah, it is actually. But yeah, because it's just not viable. We have to basically still sell it for 10 and eat the VAT as the
Yeah.
seller. So it's the same with this, I guess. It's kind of interesting, really. But yeah, I guess it's better for business sellers in the end because yeah, it was very unfair, to be fair. On you.
Have you seen the term? I think it's enshittification. Uh, no, is that? Yeah, it's the term where no matter what platform you're selling on, as they get bigger, it just becomes crap for the people on the platform. So, like Amazon's fees got ludicrous. They really squeezed the tiny margin from the sellers. Then eBay got really bad for sellers. Then TikTok is the rising one. People are saying obviously the fees are going to go up as the customer base goes up. I know Google advertising got more expensive. So it's literally no matter where you go, the buyer or the sellers are getting rinsed whilst these huge conglomerate platforms are making all the money.
Yeah, pretty much it's the basically get people on the platform, make it invaluable so they can't leave, and then charge more fees. It's pretty
Mm.
much the way it is for all these places. Again, all these companies are doing it for profit, aren't they? So
Right.
they want to squeeze as much out of you as possible, but they need to be careful because if they squeeze too much profit and there's nothing left for everyone else, then
Yeah.
we're all like scratching a living, while they're like having a bit of a big feast on the table, and we're at the bottom on the floor having scraps. Then people are going to stop eating those scraps and it's going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
like the thing
yes.
is, the guys, the people who sell on their own website, I know a lot of people say you should actually aim for a gross margin of 50% plus on your product sales. And that's all well and good from your own platform. You're almost never going to get that on Amazon. 50% gross profit margin, not ROI, is very hard to get. But then when you're selling from your own platform, you've got advertising costs. So
Yeah.
yeah, the margin on the product might be great, but the costs everywhere else, like the warehousing cost, the advertising cost, it's going to bring that margin down.
Oh yeah, exactly. Advertising is probably one of the most expensive parts of all that as well. It's the same
Mm.
for doing private label as well. You might have like a really profitable product, but you need to factor in that you've had to pay like I don't know what the PPC cost or whatever it costs really. So and that's not insignificant. It's actually probably one of the biggest fees that you're going to run into. So yeah, definitely got to take some of those numbers with a pinch of salt because yeah, like you say, there's other costs involved that essentially like yeah, running your own warehouse, staffing, and then all the managing of the staff, holidays, just a night, national insurance, all that kind of stuff. Like a lot of headache to what you think you're making more money, and then it turns out you're probably just making the same amount as everyone else who's just using Amazon FBA. So I guess the only good thing there is you've got a sellable business. That's one thing I don't like about Amazon. You can't sell this business. If this business, if I shut down my business or stop selling, the business is worth nothing. Maybe I could sell my Amazon account for a couple of grand, maybe if I'm lucky, because I've got a few sort of good brands on there ungated that are sort of hard gated for some people. But yeah, it's not a sellable business, which is one thing I don't like. So that's one downside. Well, one of the few downsides to Amazon FBA.
Did you see Sellerboard's beta thing where they were giving you a business evaluation? And on Sellerboard now, you can actually get valuations to sell your Amazon business. And it's
Okay,
basically,
interesting.
yeah, it's what you said is correct, but it's private label or wholesale businesses on Amazon
Yeah,
that you can sell. But
yeah, absolutely.
the valuation of private label was significantly higher than wholesale ones because obviously wholesale, you could lose your rights to sell the products, but with private label, it's your own. But like, I actually have a fun story on that. One of my friends is from Texas, and he was selling a private label product in Amazon US, and it was going really well. He was becoming very wealthy from that product. Amazon overnight shut that product down and restricted anyone from selling it, and then 2 days later started selling it themselves as an Amazon Basics thing.
Yeah,
So
so bad.
even private label people aren't safe.
Yeah, I thought they stopped doing that, but it turns out they're still doing it. It's very naughty of them to do that, to be
Mm.
fair.
Well,
Yeah, private
you
label businesses you can sell, and wholesale to a certain extent. You wouldn't get a very good multiplier in your business, but
yeah,
wholesale you could probably sell. But private label, if you want to do a business which you want to sell the brand essentially, then yeah, private label's the way to go. But I'm not into private label myself really. I just do OA pretty much,
yeah, yeah.
and a bit of wholesale.
We were looking at testing white label, but they did the adjustment. Well, I don't know if you noticed, a while ago, the sponsored ad used to be the top one or two products when you would search a product listing on Amazon, but now it's like the first entire row or the first two rows,
Yeah,
and PPC costs went up because of
more
that, because
money.
people exactly. So we were gonna test some private label products, but we decided to do it on our own site instead, just to see what the cost difference would be with customer acquisition. Turns out very expensive.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
very expensive.
To be fair, marketing and PPC and stuff is a whole nother art in itself that you probably have to hire someone who knows what they're doing, because otherwise you're just going to. And I've done Facebook advertising, I've done Google advertising with very little results basically, because I just don't know. I'm not making obviously a very good advert and don't know what I'm doing really. So you can easily spend a lot of money and not get any results.
Yeah, so
So
my partner does kind of more Facebook advertising stuff,
yeah,
and it is I kind of act as a consultant because I'm more experienced, but because I've all of my focus is on Seller Smart, I just don't have the time. And it's an entirely different, like, you'd think because it's e-commerce it's the same thing, but it's not. What you have to learn is entirely different from Amazon. And to anyone watching who doesn't know what to try, Amazon is definitely far easier to just step into it as a business. Like, it's in my opinion the easiest one to just start,
yeah.
and you can make your money on it. And if you don't want to stick to it, fair enough, move on to something else. But it's definitely the best entry way into e-com, in my opinion.
Yeah, you basically take away huge elements of a normal business. You take away the marketing department. You don't need marketing. You don't need customer acquisition. You don't even need customer service. So you eliminate that entire element of running a business. Whereas if you start a normal business, like a website from scratch, you have to do all that yourself, as well as maintain the product and sell the product. So that's what Amazon is best because of that. Basically, you can make a lot of money on Amazon, but it's also like an easier business to set up because you don't have those elements you have to worry about. You just have to worry about buying stuff the right price and selling it. That's pretty much it, to be
I
fair.
was Yeah, I was talking to my accountant not that long ago. It was for a podcast actually, and he was saying people don't seem to realize that if you're working a 9 till 5 running a business and you have like 3 or 4 employees, that's like a really big deal. And yet Amazon sellers do that every day. It's just not really seen as a big deal on the Amazon platform because it's so much more accessible. You don't have all those other hurdles to
Yeah.
jump. So it was a fair point. I'd never taken that on board before, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
It's a great place to
exactly.
start.
And the thing I like about it as well, it's almost like coming from the software world, for example, like if your website suddenly gets a load of traffic for whatever reason, you can just like spin up another server, okay, or 10 servers, whatever you want, basically. AWS lets you do that. Takes 5 minutes. Well, Amazon's the same. If you just come across a ridiculous deal and you buy 1 million products, for example, well, Amazon can deal with that for you. No problem. You can send it into them, and they've got the facility to deal with that. They've got the staff, the warehouses. If you bought 1 million products and tried to put it in your own warehouse, on your own shelves, it would cost you a fortune. Then you have
Mm.
to hire staff to manage the warehouse, pick the items, pack them, buy the boxes, and boxes aren't cheap, by the way. Especially, they're actually quite expensive, and even packing material, God, that adds up as well. Like, but Amazon allows you to do that scale from like literally like one product to like 1 million products. They can fulfill that for you, no problem. It's just a fixed cost per product, essentially. That's the thing I like about Amazon. It's basically infinitely scalable. I mean, I could sell literally 1 million products in one day, and Amazon will be able to fulfill that, no problem.
So
You know?
just going on what you just said, one of the biggest killers in businesses is growing too fast and it's not sustainable. You can't keep up.
Yeah,
That's not, with everything you just mentioned, that's not an issue on Amazon, is it? Because they've got the infrastructure ready there already.
exactly. Yeah. So you sell 1 million products in one day, Amazon posts it all out for you, take any returns for you, and you just get paid out after 14 days, and you get to go basically. A
Mm.
bit simplistic, but that's pretty much how it works. And that's one thing I just love about the FBA business model is that it's literally if you come into a bunch of money, you can buy a bunch of stock or just get access to a bunch of amazing stock one day. Yeah, just send it to Amazon, you're all good basically. So use a prep center
My
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, my ambition from the get-go was to I don't want to be fixed in a place when I'm doing business. I'm not looking for a digital nomad life because I actually like consistency and routine, but I really want to go traveling. If you're using a prep center and using Amazon's FBs, far easier to do that than if you're running your own warehouse, because running your own warehouse means you have to put a hell of a lot of trust into whatever warehouse manager you hire to run it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great business model for people who want to travel.
Yeah, there's also risks with getting your own warehouse. Like you have to sign a business lease that might be anywhere between 1 and 5 or 10 years. So, and obviously you have to pay rates. So I don't know if you've ever tried to get a warehouse. I definitely looked at getting one at one point. I was like, okay, I can get like a nice warehouse for £1,000. You basically got to double it because you got to pay for insurance, you got to pay for business rates on your electric and gas, and obviously normal business rates as well, depending on what your the profits and stuff are. It adds up massively. And becomes very expensive. And then you've still got to manage that warehouse yourself. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just a huge fan of Amazon, and I admit Amazon is not a perfect business. In fact, it's a pain in the butt at times.
Mm.
But I have seen dozens of people, including myself, who've like changed their lives through Amazon and like made a fortune on there and continue to do very well. Whether they carry on doing Amazon or actually what is quite natural after 2, 3, 4 years is take the money they've made and move it into another business once they've got
Yeah.
that kind of business experience. So you get all, and some people like they carry on doing OA. Some people then move into private label, so they're doing Amazon, but like just slightly different Amazon, or they just say, I'm done. I'm going to take my £500,000 or whatever, how much they made. I'm going to put it into property. I'm going to do another business. I'm going to do whatever, essentially. So, but yeah, they all started with Amazon there.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's what I say to people. I'm like, even if you don't like it, it's a really good way to learn the basics of business, make money, and then take that money to do what you want to do. And
Yeah.
just going back to what you were just saying, obviously we run a prep center. So what you were saying about the warehouse and stuff, it is expensive to run all that. And in the UK, going back to the glory of the UK, we have by far the most expensive commercial electricity costs in any country. And it's something like 4,000% more expensive than China. So if you're operating a business yourself, just the electricity costs are really, really high.
Yeah, and there's no cap on it either, like with private stuff. So if the prices go up, they're just going to whack you with that immediately. So
Yeah.
I don't know why commercial electricity is so expensive in the UK. Because they can
I
get away with it, I guess.
I saw a video the other day. I don't know if this is true. I haven't fact checked it myself, but the guy in the interview was saying that in the UK we spend millions per year switching off wind turbines because they overproduce electricity and they want to keep the price inflated and high. And yeah, honestly, if that's true, that makes my blood boil because we're already paying more for electricity than anyone else. You've got grannies who can't put on their heating during the winter because of it. So if it's artificially inflated, we should really do something about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, it's a travesty. There's a lot of travesties in the UK at the moment. UK, like,
Mm.
just saying, I'm in Dubai right now. Okay, I was looking at getting a car. I can get a brand new Toyota RAV4 for £20,000, brand new from Toyota. In the UK, the same car, although I think it's a hybrid versus just a petrol, £44,000 brand new from Toyota. So it's over 100% more expensive. It's
Mm.
like I don't know why cars are so cheap out here, but I was just like, it just shows you how much. I mean, in the UK, obviously, you got 20% VAT versus 5% here, but that doesn't factor it in. Like, it's just interesting, like how much we get ripped off in England.
Thinking
Um,
about the currency exchange as well, if it's $20,000, it's more like £15,000, isn't it? So £44,000 here is significantly more expensive.
yeah, it's £20,000. Yes,
Oh,
£20,000,
okay.
and yeah, and then £44,000 in the UK. Yeah, so it's not exactly the same. Like the UK one's the hybrid one, but I think the hybrid one here is like 23,000, something like that. But it's still significantly cheaper. And it's just like, is it because they don't have to ship it as far? That can't explain £20,000 difference, you know? I don't know, just crazy, really. So I was surprised. I was like, wow, I would never buy a new car in the UK unless I was so wealthy that money didn't matter to me. I'd always buy a 3, 4 year old car. But here, I'm like, well, I might as well just buy a new one because the used ones are going for similar price anyway. So I might as well just get a new one, get the warranty with Toyota, and know that I got peace of mind with that car. And just yeah, it's like 20 grand. It's like I don't know, for a brand new car from a manufacturer like that, it's just a bargain. You
Yeah.
cannot do that in the UK. I don't know
No,
what
no.
car you can buy for 20 grand brand new in the UK right now. You can't even get the equivalent of the Fiesta, the Puma now. I'm actually trying to think what car you could buy for 20 grand. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really a car
Nothing good.
person. Yeah. So,
No.
but yeah, UK is a bit of a rip off. But if you want to change your life, I suppose, and get into business, then I mean, I've already harped on about this. I harp about this on my YouTube channel as well and stuff like that. It's like it just doesn't get better than Amazon. I mean, there are other things you can potentially do, but yeah, I've just seen the highest success rates from Amazon, really. So
I had a
it's
question for you. I had a
yeah, go for
question.
it.
Sorry, you go on, finish your point.
I was gonna say essentially Amazon's kind of risk free as well. Like especially if you do OA, like you buy the stock online from like Notino or whatever, you got like a 90-day return period. If it doesn't work out, just take the stock back and send it back. You know, it's like it's pretty risk free generally. This business. Yeah, you can start with a reasonably small amount of money and there's not a huge risk in this business. So yeah, I don't know. Just feel like it's just the perfect business, really. Which is why I try and get as many people into Amazon as possible. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Someone I've been chatting to for a long time now. He's a younger guy from the north. He was messaging me when he first started, and I think he had like 500 to £1,000 to spend. And however much longer it is now, 6 months, I saw he was hitting 20K profit last month.
insane. That is a
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah. Normally, I
So
say to
yeah, I
people, "Oh, go on, you
go
go."
on.
I was
No,
gonna say
no, you go.
normally I'd say £1,000 probably the minimum I'd say to start. I've had some people, I've had calls with who said, "Oh, we got like 200, 300, 500." I always feel like that is tough to do this business because when you factor in Amazon seller fit cost, which is like £30 a month, you got some software like Keeper or Seller Ramp. Even if you go bare bones, like I feel like your profit's going to get eaten up by all the software subscriptions. And to be fair,
Mhm.
there are quite a lot of softwares you need for Amazon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always feel like £1,000 really the bare minimum, unless you're willing to just get in there and learn how it works, and break even, and then you can put more money in from your job over time. Then maybe
We
500's fine.
we did a P&L ages and ages ago, where we realized at one point we were spending about 500 quid a month on softwares because Amazon wasn't the only thing we were doing. We were like, damn, that's that's a lot of
Yeah,
money to be spending on
and
software. Let's try and
everything's a,
move it.
and everything's a subscription now as well.
Yeah,
So everything's
literally everything. I really want to get one of those Sleep 8 mattresses where they've managed to successfully subscription model your bed.
oh
You
really?
know,
Oh God, my head about that. God, that's
yeah, they
crazy.
they're like proven to help you sleep better, but it's also a pay monthly subscription to an app that they do. Man, they've managed to monetize sleeping.
Yeah, so I would, out of principle, not buy that because I don't want to encourage them that
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
fair.
I want that business model to die. It kind of makes sense from a software point of view because they have to keep updating it and things like that. I get it to a certain extent. But then there's people out there like Final Cut Pro, which I use to edit my videos. It's just like £300 one time, and
Mm.
that's it. I love that model where you can just buy the software or whatever. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, really. So what were you going to ask me before I interrupt you, if you can remember?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the questions I had before coming into the call with you was, have you been keeping up with the manufacturers in China responding to Trump's tariffs?
I've seen there's like this whole trade war going on, and they keep retaliating. Yes, Trump puts it up, and then China then put theirs up, and and I don't know where we're at now, some ridiculous like 300% or something. But yeah, I watched a little bit of it. Basically, I actually bought shares when Trump announced the stock market that the tariffs on the stock market crashed. I put some money into stocks and shares because I thought this is a good time to buy when everyone said. I always try and do what the opposite of what everyone's doing. So if people
Yeah,
are
I mean,
selling, I'm buying.
people make money when there's blood in the water, don't they? They buy
Pretty
low and
much.
but yeah, it wasn't so much the trade war that I was referring to. It was the way the Chinese manufacturers are responding.
Okay.
They completely flooded the platform on TikTok and Instagram and everything. The manufacturers themselves said, well, they were saying all of your high-end luxury brands that are made in Europe, they're all made in China, and you can get them for pennies on the dollar here if you just come to China directly. And then
Interesting.
they were setting up hotels for people to travel here. They were saying you can have a shopping visa where you come here and stay. You don't
I
need
did not
anything.
see this. No, I might have to
Oh
go to
man,
China then.
yeah, mate, I've been fixated on it, and the reason I ask you is because if China's going to respond to Trump's trade war this way, that is going to change the space of e-commerce everywhere, including on Amazon, because as more and more people become aware that everything's bought from China and they can go directly to the manufacturers, because of how bad the economy is, I think people are willing to wait 2 weeks for something that's much, much cheaper. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it changes the landscape of ecom in general and on
Yeah, yeah.
Amazon.
You'll have to send me a few links to some products. It's like I
Yeah, I
assume it's
will.
just like high end luxury products like Hermes
All
bags.
all of
Oh,
them.
that's yeah, yeah. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because I know a lot of them. I don't know if about Hermes bags, for example, but I know a lot of the things they basically manufacture the parts in China, like the elements of it, but then they ship that over to like France, and then they'll just manufacture it and just stitch it in. But the majority of the materials and stuff and elements of manufacturing have been done in China, and then just the last bits or whatever are done in say the end destination country like France, whatever. But yeah,
From
certainly
what I
interesting.
from what I was seeing, it's more of a scam. It's more everyone's told they're built in European countries, but it's just fully for a lot of them they're fully produced in China and they're just sold as if they're made in some rural town in Italy.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I know that with Swiss watches, for example, not every element of it is. A lot of it is actually manufactured in China. It's just assembled in Switzerland. So yeah, the last like bit of it is just the assembly, which takes like a day or two, whatever it takes. So yeah, it's certainly interesting, isn't it? I know, like Nike trainers, for example, they cost like a fiver to make, £10 at most. And they sell them for like 100, £150. So yeah, it's certainly interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I've not actually seen that. So interesting.
The
I need to buy some stuff, I
seeing it
guess.
from a consumerist perspective and a business owner perspective, right? If your product is costing you $5 and you're selling it for I don't know £100, there's other elements you have to consider where the Nike's marketing budget is going to be so high, you have
Yeah,
to factor that into the margin.
100%.
And also there's the market where people want to spend more money because it's like a status thing.
Yeah.
So these bags who are making, a 10,000% markup, some people want to spend loads of money to be perceived as rich. So you can't really say it's immoral because the market determines whether a product is worth its price by people buying it or not.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, I bet a shoe that costs $5 to manufacture has £10 or $10 of marketing behind it, that you don't see. And actually going back to the mattress thing, like, Simba mattresses and all those things, they spend more on a marketing per mattress than they do for the manufacturing cost. So, because that market became so competitive. So yeah, a mattress might cost them £50 to make, but they're spending £100 in marketing. So their total cost is maybe £150.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have to factor that in as well. But yeah, you're right. Luxury goods. Like I'm not a big person of luxury items. The only thing I like is luxury watches myself. So that's my kind of like one vice. But
You
beyond
you
that,
strike
really,
you strike me as a Prada man, so that surprises me.
no, definitely not. So I've been past all the Hermes and the Gucci shops and stuff in that Dubai Mall and stuff. I've got zero interest in that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same.
Maybe I'd get the only thing I'd potentially buy would be like a nice wallet. But then I don't even
Okay.
carry a wallet anymore. I've just got my phone with Apple Pay, so I don't even
Yeah.
carry a wallet anymore. So yeah, the only luxury item I have is watches. I've got a Breitling, that's pretty much it. So that's my only like vice, I guess. And at some point, I do want to get a nice car. So, but yeah,
The watch is the only one. I'm the same as you. I don't really care about all that stuff, but I like watches. But I wouldn't wear a nice watch in the UK. I would wear them in Dubai.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. That's another. I mean, God, we feel like we're back in the UK here. just say I actually love the UK. I'm upset the way that's going. I wish it was better. But yeah, it's dangerous to wear like watches in the UK, isn't it? Like in certain parts, like in London, you've seen people get their Rolexes snatched off their wrists and stuff. But out here, I've hung out with guys who have like 200 grand watches on. Like, it's just not an issue. It's crazy, really, how well it's because they're ruthless out here with the law, which is what they should be in the UK. But the crime in the UK is just getting out of control, and the police are just too worried about their perception and making sure the rights of the thief or the criminal are followed, rather than worrying about the poor person who's had their watch stolen. I don't know. It just feels like it's just a
It's
total
backward.
mess, and it's only getting worse. That's the thing
Mm.
as well. And what's happening in London right now is going to slowly start spilling out to other cities. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So
Well, this is the problem when you've got a police force that isn't empowered to actually enforce the law. I'm not someone who's into overly policed states. I don't like that. But when you've got the state of the UK right now, where I'll give you an example. My barber cut someone's hair the other day, and the guy just legged it. And he spoke to the shop across the street to get their CCTV, and they said, "Oh yeah, that guy comes in here weekly, just steals everything he can. We'll call the police and say he's in our store right now. Please, can you come and arrest him?" And they'll say, "Okay, cool. We'll give you an appointment next week on Tuesday."
it's just crazy.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then nothing happens. The guy just
Yeah.
in this instance, crime literally does pay. It's not a
Yeah.
good message to send.
And you can tell by the way that crime is becoming a big issue in the UK, because I don't know when you last went to your supermarket, but now most supermarkets have all the barriers up. It's like almost like going into an airport, really. You can only go in one way. They've got the barriers there and security and stuff. And I remember times you could just walk into a supermarket and walk out through the same entrance. Like, but now you have to go through the whole. It's just crazy. It's because
Mm.
shoplifting is going through the roof. There's a lot of shoplifting going on, and nothing's being done. They essentially have to eat that cost, because the police won't do
Shrinking.
anything. And
That's
it's
what they
just
call it, shrinkage. Yeah.
it's just like, and then obviously who pays that? We do, because we have to pay for the extra security and then the loss of those items. That just people who pay for their crazy people who pay for their groceries. It's just it's scary. It scares me that the way the UK is going, and yeah, I definitely don't necessarily like a state or a country where the police rule with an iron fist. At the
Mm.
same time, it works. Because if
Yeah.
people fear the police, which is a terrible thing to say, but then they won't commit crimes. It's yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I suppose.
There was a Louis Theroux episode where he was in the US, and I can't remember the episode, but someone on camera said, I can't be caught doing this. I'm on my third strike, and it's the death penalty in this state." Whilst that's really, really gnarly, and I don't agree with capital punishment, it literally did defer him from crime, like push him away
Yeah.
from crime out of fear. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
tricky. Finding the
it's
balance, isn't it?
it is, yeah. It's yeah, right now, unfortunately, yeah, it's just scary. And it's just it's everything. The problem with the UK right now is not necessarily how the state is right now, it's the trajectory it's going. So the economy is going down. That's not a good thing. Crime is going up. So it's not like things are improving. It's just like right now it's not good and it's getting worse. That's the
Yeah.
scary thing, and kind of like why I decided to leave, because I just don't see a good outcome coming out of this. And I feel like the
Turning
UK
it
is yeah, go anyway, yeah.
I
Don't
no,
I'm
no,
so negative on this.
no, I was gonna
Uh,
say turning it to a positive. One of my
yeah,
friends has a master's in politics. He works for the civil service. He and I have been talking for the last 2 weeks straight about Gary's economics, because he's the guy leading the charge in the UK talking about wealth inequality causing all these problems that we're seeing. And I have to be honest, I am slightly more positive now than I was, because I'm seeing a lot of millionaires in the UK saying there is a big problem here. It is going to affect all of us. Rich people need to be taxed more. But again, like what we were talking about earlier, you have to have a tax system that doesn't tax the working class people heavily, does tax the people who have most of the money, but also doesn't discourage people from entrepreneurialism here, because entrepreneurs are the ones who create businesses are the ones who create jobs. So it's a really nuanced problem, but we have to do something about it because, as you say, the trajectory is alarming. But I think more and more people are starting to focus on it, which is, to me, is a good sign. That means eventually it will change because the public will put pressure on politicians, you would hope.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. Yeah, it's hopefully it does change and hopefully it does get better. But yeah, I don't know. Right now, the government can't take their eyes. Just like if you see a beautiful woman walking along the street, you can't take your eyes off her. Well, Labour can't take their eyes off your wallet right now, and all they can think about is raising taxes. So, it's just, yeah. So hopefully things do change because, yeah, I definitely don't like taxation. Not just because they make decent money, I just don't think it works for an economy. It tax people less. And I think actually a good tax to have is the sales tax, VAT. Put that up. People make more money. If they want to spend it, they get taxed for it. And I think that's a good way to do it, and encourage people to come into the country as well. So, because right now all the millionaires are fleeing. It's basically the countries that have lost the most millionaires right now is China, and is first, and then second is UK. And China has a way bigger population than the UK. So from a proportion of like millionaires to population, it's the UK has lost the most millionaires out of any country in the world right now. And they've all
Yeah.
gone to America, to Dubai. And you don't want rich people leaving your country. And no matter how much you hate them, if you hate rich people, some people do, but you don't want that because then you're going to left with the middle class and the lower class. I don't know, working class is really bad, but like, you want the wealthy people in there because they're the ones that create the jobs and have the money and then put wealth into the economy. I don't know. It just, yeah.
Well,
Sounds really bad what I just said there, but yeah, I don't know.
That's the argument people are making, isn't it? Is when you've got millionaires and rich people fleeing, that tax burden is going to be pushed onto the middle class, and the middle class is already being destroyed, basically. So, yeah, it's tough.
They've already got a lot of stuff on their shoulders, and you're just piling on more weight. And the middle is only so much that the middle class can suffer before they just pack it in and go, well, I'm here to I'm just going to go on benefits at this point. What's the point of me even working? And that's a bad system. I don't even want to get into the benefit system because it's a whole other discussion. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, too much politics, I suppose. But
yeah. Well, to be fair, the fact that you and I have spoken about it so much shows how big a topic it is these days. Because I'm not someone who likes to talk politics too much online or in our server, but it is so in your face everywhere. You kind of can't escape it.
No, yeah, it's a topic that everyone's talking about and everyone's thinking about because, yeah, like I say, no one seems to like the way that the country's going. It's not going to, it can't continue. The benefit system will eventually collapse because there's no money coming into it, which means, what are people? They have people. I don't know what people have to do, but yeah, it's just going to be a total mess. I think that, and if it keeps going the way it's going, the UK is going to end up being like a second world country if it's not already.
We thought about this privately, didn't we?
Yeah.
If you take London's economy out of the UK, we literally are a second or third world economy without London.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah. Steering the ship back into one more question I had for you. I technically had two, actually.
Go on. Yeah, sure.
You told me that you're doing most of your purchasing at the moment from Qogita. I'm still like very regularly getting people who are super worried about buying from Qogita in case they get ungate issues or compliance issues. Have you, in your experience, had any issues from buying from Qogita?
So I've had parallel import claims before.
Okay.
So the great thing about that is the Qogita invoice has a UK address on it. So use that. It works. Let's just say I've had issues. Let's put it like that. But any website you order from is going to have issues. 99% of my orders have been absolutely fine. I've had a few times where things have been missing and they've been refunded by Qogita. I've had a few in terms of IP complaints. I just make sure I kind of avoid those kind of brands. So you can get that with any website. Tino, whatever website you buy from, really, you can get IP complaints. So it's not really something that's wrong with Qogita there, but I fight those with invoices. I've had a few parallel import claims here, but no, the only real issue I've had really is like occasionally missing items or things like that, and I just got refunded. Like Qogita's customer service has gotten so good now, they'll refund you within 24 hours as long as you provide all the evidence.
Yeah.
And they've changed the whole case process. So they tell you like, take a picture of the box, take a picture of the product, take a picture of this. If you do all that, you get refunded within 24 hours. So
Yeah.
I
The
would
the
say
the biggest
Qogita.
concern.
Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go on.
Yeah. No, it's 'cause what's the biggest concern?
Yeah, the biggest concern that I still get from people is that I've tried to use a Qogita invoice to ungate and it hasn't been accepted. It's like, yeah, that's Amazon. You have to use legitimate invoices 10 times over before one person will go, hey, that's legitimate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was that. I don't know if you saw. There was a Reddit post. I don't know how legit it was, but I feel like it was. And someone basically said, I worked for Amazon and I realized that basically if I accept, and they were basically working on ungating, if I accept an ungate and for whatever reason I've made a mistake, I'll get punished. But if I reject 100%, the person basically got a reward for being like a perfect employee. So they basically just rejected everyone's ungate request and every request they got essentially. I don't know how true it was, but it seemed pretty legit to me. And I was like, that actually feels like that's maybe has cottoned on to all the employees there. They're like, I don't want to, why would I take the risk on you of saying I'll accept you when I can just reject you and then get rewarded by the company?
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. But yeah, ungating's a pain. I did a whole video on this to help people. It is a nightmare. It takes 10, 20 goes to get ungated. It's nothing to do with Qogita or any other website. I mean, I've seen people use Amazon invoices to get, and they won't accept it.
Yeah.
I've even seen them say, please send us your supplier's supplier, from an Amazon invoice. They don't, they probably spend about 3 to 5 seconds looking at your ungate application. You'll be lucky if they even read it.
Yeah.
So you just got to basically keep submitting till you get through to someone who is feeling nice or is actually going to take the 10 seconds it takes to read the documentation. Because sometimes they'll say, oh, you don't have the products in hand. And I've sent them a picture of me literally holding the 10 items, it's just stuff like that. They don't even read the application. This is part of the whole customer service thing. It's just terrible. It needs to
Yeah.
change. But yeah, it's nothing to do with Qogita really. It's just a pain.
The example
Yeah.
I use is that I had a Lego invoice to ungate Lego and I still had to do it multiple times
Yeah.
because they were like, this isn't a valid invoice. You mean from Lego? Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, I know someone who was fighting an authenticity claim. They had the invoice direct from the manufacturer like that, and they never got it accepted. They could not get it through. And in the end, they had to wait for 6 months for the authenticity claim to disappear. And that was direct from the manufacturer. And I had the same thing actually with Lenovo. I bought from Lenovo Business to ungate Lenovo. I bought some like mice or something. So Lenovo Business give you a proper invoice because it's like designed to sell for businesses. It's all legit and stuff. And then it took me like, I don't know, 7 or 10 attempts. And this was before it was like really bad to ungate. This is back when it was like relatively easy to ungate. And still with a Lenovo Business invoice, they still took like 7 goes or something. So you just got to keep trying. It's bad and it's also good. It means people are going to give up and there'll be more business for the rest of us, I suppose. So if you're willing to persist and get those products ungated, then you're going to make more money, I think. So but yeah, I feel the pain. Trust me.
We were looking at some stats recently that I don't think anyone else has access to these stats because it's something we've produced. We were seeing that lots of people are moving away from Amazon, likely to chase TikTok Shop. And one person's turmoil is another person's success because to us, that's like, well, that's less competition, fewer sellers to compete against who are going to break the prices.
Exactly. If the crowd's going one way, you should go the other way.
Yeah.
Just like when the stock market went down, I bought shares and I made money off them. So,
Yeah.
I thought, no, I had the mentality of like, well, I'm getting some cheap shares now. And while they
Yeah.
may go down more, you can never time the market exactly right. In the long run, I'm getting these at a bargain discount. So that was my mentality. And it's similar with this, if people are moving off to another platform, maybe think, well, maybe if I can just stick through, because everything goes through these like cycles in life and in the world. And yeah, Amazon was really not amazing, but like really popular at one point, and now it's becoming unpopular. But at some point, it's going to come back around again to be popular. So if you're on there and you've been selling for 3 years and you're now a solid seller on there, when everyone comes back to it, you're going to be the man, basically.
Yeah. It's like fashion, isn't it? It's cyclical. It's just everything's comes back around.
So, but yeah, I know everyone's going to TikTok shop and stuff. I actually did open a TikTok shop and I listed one product on there. I saw the fees are 9%. So I was like, oh, that's not even that cheap. And I've sold nothing so far. So, and you've got to pay a commission to get people to actually promote it as well. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a product that I've got on Amazon that is a totally messed up listing. So, and Amazon refused to fix it. So, yeah, yeah, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? But yeah, it's Amazon. But yeah, anyways, any other questions for me that you had? Burning questions, or was that just
You
those
got any
two?
for me?
So, oh God, you put me on the spot now. Not at the moment. Well, how's your? You're still doing Amazon, correct? You're still selling on Amazon?
We all of us paused doing Amazon to focus on Seller Smart because it was too busy.
Yeah,
I think I told you privately actually. My issue was that I was hoping I could run my Amazon stuff kind of autonomously with a VA team, but they fell through. We gave them too much space so we could focus on Seller Smart, and they
yeah,
took the piss. Had to let them go. So I put a pause on it, but I'm going straight back to it as soon as we've released everything, which is coming very soon. So I'm really excited to get back into it because seeing that loss of income was was hard to swallow. But yeah,
yeah,
really looking forward to getting
exactly.
back into it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I basically had that big Q4, and then I was consistently making. I wasn't quite hitting 10,000 a month. I was making maybe 8,000 on average, I'd say. Although technically my average was probably about 10 actually when you include Q4. But yeah, I missed that to be honest. I mean, I think
Yeah.
actually how relatively easy that was to do. And now I've got
Well,
way more money to invest. So I just
you said yourself though, didn't you? You were pursuing the mentorship and YouTube side of things, and it was hard to manage both. That's what
it
it's like. You
is.
kind of have to
Yeah.
pick and choose your battles. It's very hard to do both.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just like I say, I cannot teach and do YouTube and do YouTube around Amazon without doing Amazon myself. So it's fine for me. It's finding that balance between the two, really. But I firstly prefer doing the YouTube and well, I don't do mentorship right now. I will be doing it in the future, but
Yeah.
helping people with the Amazon. I still have to keep doing that kind of Amazon business to keep me in touch because things are moving all the time. Things are changing, and people want to see the results. I guess they want to know that if they're getting me to help them that I know what I'm doing basically as well. So
Yeah. Well, so
yeah,
someone in our community was making the point the other day that it's not so much if you stop paying attention to someone because they stop selling, it's not because you don't respect them. It's because the game changes so quickly. You're just not
yeah,
going to keep up with it unless you're selling yourself, which is completely true. I mean, ecom changes on a weekly basis, it seems. So,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. And yeah, YouTube for me is actually more lucrative than Amazon. So which is I never thought that would be true, but yeah, it's insane, really.
Are you monetized on YouTube with AdSense?
Yeah, but that's most of my money comes from affiliates and sponsorships because
Yeah, of
I
course.
make like they see yesterday I released a video on Sunday and I looked there was how much I made from it and I made £4 so far, so not very much. I probably spent more on the electric scooter just to get to the location to film that. So because I use electric scooters around in Dubai to get everywhere if I'm not walking. But yeah, it's just been insanely profitable and it's just insane and I've only got like 5,800 subscribers, something like that. So I'm just thinking if I just keep pushing this and growing this, I could get to the point where I'm making, in theory, at some point, 6 figures a month, which is kind of my goal. My goal is to make £100,000 a month, which is just insane to think about, really. I'm not saying that's my goal. I'm not saying I'll ever get there, but that's my goal. I want to get to the point
That's
where I make 100.
exactly the same as me.
Yeah.
It's such an absurd target to me. I just want to see like if and when I get there.
Yeah.
Because what I previously thought was possible to a lot of people is a low amount of money. So I figured I may as well aim high.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
But I
The
mean, I
the
already make crazy money doing this anyway, and without giving away too much, it's between 10 and 20 a month. So, on average, which is when and I had a good paying job before this, but it's just crazy, really. So, and I feel like, my mindset has shifted so much since running my own business for now for probably coming on 3 years now that I don't know, there's mental blocks and thinking about how you can make money. Now before I was like, well, how can I make money? I'm not sure. Now I see the world differently. I almost feel like the world right now is like one of those like money machines in like a game show where you get in there and they blow the money around and you've got to try and grab it. it's like that. There are so many opportunities. It's actually extraordinarily distracting because I could literally list out probably 10 or 15 ways I can literally make like 20, 30,000 pound a month now, but I can't do them all
Yeah.
because you need to focus on ideally one thing really. Focus stands for follow one course until successful. But yeah, I'm obviously doing like 2, possibly 3 things right now. But yeah, it's like follow just sticking to one
Same.
thing. It's extremely difficult, to be honest. But yeah, I've literally got so many ideas. It's just insane, but you cannot do them all. So yeah,
I
I had success just to finish this off with Amazon, because that is what I did when I got into Amazon. And my first sale was 6th of July 2022. I literally lived and breathed Amazon FBA and did nothing else for like 2 years, basically. A year and a half, 2 years. That was my one thing. And then from then I then branched out into YouTube and things like that properly, and things like that. So yeah, that's how I was successful, because I lived and breathed Amazon. That's the only way to be successful in a business.
So I had a bit of guilt, because a lot of the people I look up to who are successful say to focus on one thing at a time, and I do kind of shiny object quite a lot. I do have a lot going on. The only reason I work so many hours is because of stuff I've done to myself. If you were
Yeah.
focusing on one thing at a time, you wouldn't. But what do you think about the mentality where I pursued eBay and at the same time, not fully. Amazon was my full focus, but anytime I had returns, I would just throw them on eBay. Anytime I listed to Amazon, I would sync those listings to eBay. And eBay was nowhere close to as much revenue as Amazon was, but it was at least some. And I always thought that was a good little ecosystem balance. And a lot of people I talk to have the same thing. So do you think that's okay for sellers to do, or do you think just focus on Amazon?
I think it's closely related enough. It's okay. Like some products you'll find and you're like, well, this doesn't quite do it on Amazon, but maybe it could be profitable on eBay. The only problem is you don't have the same sales velocity on eBay. So you're almost like I don't know, it felt like my initial answer, I'm going to change actually when I said it was okay. Now I kind of feel like it's not. I think it's fine to get rid of your returns and stuff, but there's so little sales that happen on eBay. I feel like it's not even worth, like, when you compare I've done a bit of eBay as well, the sales velocity of Amazon to eBay, and eBay's like probably like 1%. If you're spending more than 1% effort on there, like, it's not worth it. So I don't know what the exact ratio is, but nowhere right now can touch the sales velocities of Amazon. So there are some listings out there that sell 10, 20,000 a month. So, unless you're selling like cheap Pokemon products or whatever on eBay, you're not going to sell that many. So I don't know, I feel like, actually, in that point of view, you're actually, apart from returns, obviously you need to deal with them. You can use a service like Returnify, or you can do it yourself. But yeah, getting rid of those and getting your money back. But yeah, beyond that, I would stick to just doing Amazon, to be honest. And even listing your returns. I hate doing that, because you're basically spending a crap load of time listing a product on eBay to basically get back like 50% of your money if you're lucky, or 80% of whatever it's going to be, because you have to like take it out, inspect it, potentially test it, set it on somewhere, take a photo of it, put that on, or self photos of it, put it onto eBay, make the listing for it, like do the research on what the price is going to be. It takes so long to list a product on eBay. It's just insane.
That was all my VA's work. I wouldn't do any of that stuff.
Well, that's good then. Yeah, if you can get them to do that. So yeah, it's just like, that's a good thing to get a VA to do, to be fair. Yeah. So but yeah, so
the only reason I was leaning on it as well is because some products I would sell on Amazon at like a 10-15% gross margin. On eBay I was getting like 30, but as you say, the velocity is a lot less, so it would sell more infrequently but for a much higher margin, just because of the fee differences. But yeah, I see your point. I can see the value in just focusing one at a time.
I'm not saying like my answer is the right answer. Like, you can definitely do both, to be fair. And like I said, especially if you maybe got limited funds to begin with and you've got way more time than you do funds to spend, it might make sense to do eBay as well as Amazon to build up that capital. But the point where you are running low on the most important thing in the world, which is time, then I wouldn't waste it on something like eBay at that point. I'd spend it on the thing that's bringing me the most money. It's like the whole 80-20 rule thing, isn't it? You get 80% of your revenue or whatever from the place where you spend 20% of your effort. That's where you should
Yeah.
focus your time, basically. So yeah, I'd break the rule. I mean, I'm doing a lot of things that I'm doing, obviously, but everything's related to Amazon. That's the only thing. So it's all Amazon FBA related. But yeah, I've got the Discord, I've got the website now, I've got the YouTube, and then I've got the Amazon business, all related to Amazon. So in that regard, it's one thing, I guess, but it's still things that distract me a little bit. So from my main thing. So I
Mm.
don't know.
Well,
It's
well,
tough. It is tough, but
it's-
there's a lot of opportunity out there, and there's a lot of money, and even 100,000 a month, maybe that's my limiting belief right now. It seems like a
we're
lot, but I know guys who make way more than that. I know one guy who makes two and a half. He makes 250,000 a month, which is crazy. You can basically
yeah.
buy a house every single month.
I
You know,
literally would as well. If I was going to earn that much money, that's what I would do. I would buy property
and
every month.
4 restaurants. The guy's 26, I think he is.
That's
For like
crazy.
expensive. What? Yeah, I won't tell you what he does, but yeah, it's another level, isn't it? And you think, well, I get to 100,000 a month, right? And I'm like really pleased with myself. There's a guy doing 2.5 times that every month than I do it.
And he's 26.
And he's like 14 years, 13 years younger than me. So it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, sometimes I feel like to myself, what have I done with my life? Because I'm so old.
Well,
So
you're not too old, but the thing to remember is that it's comparison is the thief of joy, isn't it? You're
yeah,
comparing yourself to someone who's doing extraordinarily well, but you to an average person in the UK, let's say, not going back to that, but the money you earn is what some people earn in a year, and you earn it
yeah.
monthly. So you always have to remember that how lucky we are in our
Oh no,
position.
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and yeah, I don't waste my money either. I appreciate the money I make and I try and reinvest it and stuff like that. My goal is to become wealthy, definitely. That's
Yeah.
always been my goal. But yeah, I don't take it for granted at all. I know I'm very lucky. But they're saying that although I had a good paying job, I've been there. I've worked McDonald's before. Like, when I was 16, I know what it's like to work a crummy job and work hard for. I was getting paid £4.10 an hour. But, so I know to a certain extent. I'm not had a hard life. Don't get me wrong. I've had a very privileged life, but I have done some hard graft here and there. Even before that, I was a pot washer. So, yeah, It's just everyone has these limiting beliefs, I guess, and I think it's just an interesting phenomenon, I suppose. But yeah,
One of my
it's in
favorite topics to talk about is mindset, and
yeah,
I went through that myself. I said it. We're going to release a YouTube video in the next couple of days. There's a long form one, and no, a short form video. Sorry. And I said in the video that I grew up poor, and I had a poor person's mindset
yeah,
until entering into this world, and I was like, holy crap, there is so much money out there to make.
yeah. It's interesting because some people are literally the mindset. Their goal is just to get a job that will pay them 20,000 a year. Is like they're like, wow, I've peaked if I've got that. But then for me, that would be like I'd be devastated. So
Mm.
perspective is certainly an interesting point of view when it comes to these kind of things, like how we have different perspectives. Like there's a great example of a German billionaire. He made some bad moves. I don't know how much he was worth. Let's say 5 billion. Right? He made some bad moves, right, and lost all his money pretty much. I think he had like 100 million left, and he committed suicide because he'd lost it all. But for you and me, if we had 100 million, I can guarantee you I wouldn't be committing suicide. I'll be on a yacht in the sea,
Yeah.
enjoying my life. But for him, that was a devastating move because it looked bad for him because he was known as like one of the richest people in Germany and he was ashamed of what happened. And as far as he's concerned, he was dead broke. But he was
Mhm.
richer than 99.999% of the people in the world. So
Yeah. I
perspective and mindset is a funny thing, isn't it? Really?
I've said this story before, but someone
Yeah,
I know was a self-made millionaire by investing in crypto early, and when crypto dipped, he lost all his money. So he went from he went up to 1.2 million, back down to 80,000, I think it was, and he pulled out when ironically he should have stayed in. And he was saying once you've tasted that, it changes you forever. Like
yeah,
he was miserable because he's had a taste of what freedom can bring. So
yeah.
well, obviously your perspective shifts quite drastically if you think you're broke at 100 million, but I think that is part of the human condition. That scarcity mindset is deeply built into us.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting. I even saw the same thing in the poker world because I used to be a professional poker player.
Okay.
So yeah, like I saw one guy actually.
We're an hour and a half in, and you're just mentioning that now. That's a cool fact.
But like let's say you start with 10,000 chips and then you get to 20,000, and then you lose 10,000. You're in the exact same spot as you were before, but you're devastated because you had that 20,000. But I've seen people who have literally come back from one chip to win the entire tournament. But there've been times where I've had like 5,000 chips and I basically felt defeated because maybe I got to 100,000 at one point, knocked down to 5,000. I'm like, well, I'm out of the game now. Done. There's no point. The guy next to me's got one chip left and he ends up winning it. And I was in a 5,000 times better position than he was. So, it's kind of like, it's interesting, isn't it? These like, how your journey changes your mindset. And, but yeah, the point I want to make with this is that, yeah, we all have these limiting beliefs, but it's just trying to break those and move on. And everyone can better themselves in their life. Whether you want to just get better in your career or start a business, you can definitely do it. And you'll come in. Originally, I just wanted to make £2,000 a month from Amazon. That was my goal. I was like, do that on the side, £2,000 a month, and then it just sucked me in. And before you know it, I'm making, let's say, probably an average of 8 to 10,000 a month from Amazon. With big peaks in Q4. I think my best ever month I've made like 40,000.
Thing for a lot of people though, if you're earning like, let's say 3,000 after tax, if you can make 3,000 after tax whilst working your job, you're replacing your salary, you're doubling your salary, aren't you? So it's a great dynamic. Just wanted to go back to the poker thing. Do you just not like live in the sunken cost fallacy with that, where you've already gone so far into it, it's hard to pull out? So like, if you get ahead but then come back down, is it hard to pull money out knowing that, or if I just keep going, I might get it back?
So, well, yeah, that's the whole like gambling thing, isn't it? I suppose that's a difficult part of gambling and poker, is that you can make all the right moves and still get the wrong result. So you've got to have a very long-term mindset that basically the math is going to work out. And if you're going to play the correct plays constantly, then you will win in the long run. However, you've then also got the human factor that comes into that, and that is your mind starts playing tricks on you, and you start thinking, "Oh, I'm playing really good here," but actually you're not playing good because you're on what we used to call tilt, where you basically it's gotten to you and you're no longer playing very well. So yes, in that regard, I guess you do have that, I suppose. But yeah. That's the topic for another day there. That was my very first job.
Yeah, let's call it a day there. That's a good time. Really appreciate you coming on and talking to me today.